You know, it's funny, between the 3 channels that I run, I've made over 300 videos, and you would think that I would know if the little bars aren't dancing across the bottom of the screen, I'm probably not recording audio. By the same token, in my 4 decades of driving, you would have thought I'd have figured out that if I don't check both of my rearview mirrors, there's a good chance I'm going to run into a tree. And if you've ever got to put money on either a truck or a tree, always go with the tree. Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. I am James, and if you have watched any of the RATTLECAN channels, you'll know that this piece of property that we recently purchased and renovated the house on also contains my shop, also contains a number of trees that we are very fond of, and one of them, this big Au.Ra maple tree, is located right next to the driveway. And in order for everyone to be happy utilizing the driveway, I kind of have to tuck my vehicle in tightly to it. And even if you are off by a little bit, your vector can plot an intercept course with said tree. And as I mentioned in the intro, if you've got money to lay down between a vehicle and a tree, always bet on the tree. Even if it's just this nifty little tow mirror, tree wins. And even if you're a handy guy like I am, I mean, I can put a lot of stuff together, but there's a point where you just kind of shake your head and go, nope, buying a new one. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to put new mirrors on the truck. Now, before you get started on unplugging stuff, you better roll your window down. You'll thank me later. So, after you rolled your window down, you need to find you one of these little blue plasticky thingies. You can use your fingers if you want to. Just don't use like a screwdriver or a pry bar or, an ice pick, because you're going to tear the plastic on your dash up. Once you get this pried off, you're going to undo this little wiring harness. You just pull the tab down with your thumb, it slips right off. Don't take this off because it doesn't come off. I mean, you can sit there and screw around with it if you want to, but you don't have to. Now, you should pull your power window control panel off if you've got one of those. And same thing, you just kind of use your thumb and you pull that release back, and that'll release the wiring harness. Hold this piece of the armrest like you're going to pull it off again, but again, you don't have to. You do need to pry off this little rectangular piece underneath the armrest, and then you're going to find 2 screws underneath there that you remove, and then there's a couple of screws on the bottom edge of this door panel, and then you can pull the whole door panel off. Now, this piece, for sure, you've got to pull off of there, and you can just kind of give it the good grippy grip, pull it off of there. You may have a speaker in there if you've got one of those fancy sound systems, but we don't have one of those. And then you just kind of pull up on this door panel, and be careful, you don't want to pull any of these wiring harnesses out, and then the door panel's off. Now, if you guys are paying attention, you may notice here are our new fancy schmancy speakers that we put in the truck. Unless I haven't released that video yet, then just pretend that this never happened. Now, we got to pull out 2 of these grommets to give us access to 2 of the 4 bolts that we need to remove. You don't have to pull this middle grommet out, and then you pull this cover off. Tickle, tickle. And then we can use a socket to extract those bolts off of those little studs there. Now, a helpful hint, since you have rolled your window down, you can use your hand to support that mirror as you loosen those bolts, because that is going to want to kind of gravitate towards the ground. Now, if you're running solo and you're not quite sure you're going to be able to do that all by yourself, what you can do is you can just take some electrical tape and then just wrap it around the top of the mirror that is currently obscured by my fatness, and then tape that to your window frame, and that way it doesn't go crashing down to the ground. Although if you're doing this, it's probably already broken, so whatever. Now, I assume everyone knows about this trick. I didn't know about this trick, and I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. You can see how I have this nut ratcheted out towards the end of the bolt that it affixates to, and if you drop it down in that door frame, you're probably never going to see it again. So what I used is, this is a scribe that has a magnet on the end of it, and you can use that to slowly twirl that nut off, and then the magnet holds onto it and it doesn't go falling down there, and you get one less chance in your life to exercise your exceedingly complex grasp of, well, profanity. Now, before you go ripping and tearing that mirror off, if you will peel back the covering, this is the wiring harness that you have to disconnect. You just pull this little red tab out, and again with your thumb, which I don't know about you, I'm finding all kinds of uses for opposable thumbs. You will need to kind of tuck that inside the door so that when you do take that final nut off of there and you pull the mirror off, you're not going to tear the end of that wiring harness off. So now that you have got the old mirror removed, you can put the new piece in place so that you can start affixating it back to your door. These are Trail Ridge OEM replacement mirrors. They're not sponsoring this video. They're what I was able to locate, because in these times it's very difficult to find stuff. Supply chain issues. I was able to find some used parts, but I wasn't going to pay $400 for a mirror that was a used mirror that, oh, by the way, had a crack in it in the mirror part, which I did that by myself. So anyways, I was able to get a pair, and that's why we're just going to go ahead and install the pair on. So you can see I have taken the tape, and we've got this held on, and then it's just 4 bolts right back in, and you don't have to put the heave ho on them. You just have to get them cinched down. Now, make sure you don't have any wires poking out. Make sure that any gaskets that you see are contained within the mounting plate of that, and you can see everything just starts to tighten up and kind of fall into place. Now, I decided to go fishing for my wire, and this is just a piece of 12 gauge electrical wire, and I just bent a little hook on the end of it, and you have to go fishing to get that wire pulled out of here. And there is a trick. Pay attention to how that wire comes out, because if you do not weave it back the same direction that it came out, what will happen is it will bind on the top of your window. Your window, as it is going up, will now be caught by that wire. So pay attention. Make sure that you run it towards the inside of that door. And then once you fish the wire out, you just connect it back up and you put it behind your cover piece. And then you just reverse everything that we did. If you will kind of pre-position those 2 wiring harnesses that have to go to the window controls and the door locks, then you won't have to fish them out a little bit later. And then pay attention when you're putting this on to make sure that the lock goes through the hole, and then push it down, 4 bolts in, and just reassemble. Now, before you get everything all kind of buttoned up, make sure you do a function check. Make sure the light comes on the way that it's supposed to. Make sure that the mirror turns the way it's supposed to if you've got the power mirror function. Now remember how I told you should pay attention to how that wiring harness gets routed through that door cavity? In case you do it incorrectly, the solution for me was I just took the door speaker out, and then I was able to get my short little T-Rex arm up on the inside of there and make sure that that wire harness runs to the inside of the door. And that way, when the window goes, up, it doesn't bind on that and try to rip everything apart, because that's embarrassing. And here is our second function check. Let's make sure that we don't catch on anything. Hey, there we go. The window goes up. If you put that wiring harness in the wrong spot at about the 1/3 up point, it will bind up and it will bog down. While you're here, you might as well go ahead and check the mirror. Make sure that it rotates back and forth. There we go. Now we can put everything back together. And there you have it. The removal and replacement of the side view or the tow mirrors on the 2011 to 2016 Ford F-250 Super Duty. Mine is an XLT model, so I don't have all the fancy speaker wires and stuff that I have to deal with. And what are the lessons that we learned? Well, number one, even though you've done a metric crap ton of videos for YouTube, double check to make sure that your little dancy bars are going on the bottom of it so you don't have to do this stupid voiceover thing. Number two, pay attention when you're backing up, because trees, well, they always win. Anyways, I'm James. This is RATTLECAN Fab Shop. You guys have a great weekend. Cheers. I hope you found this episode educational or entertaining, or maybe even both. You might want to check this one out as well. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified when new videos drop, and if you got comments, make sure you put them down beneath the sermon notes. Thanks for hanging out with us here at the RATTLECAN Fab Shop. Y'all have a good one. Cheers.